When you picture, like, a typical wedding photographer, um, a very specific image probably comes to mind, right?
Oh, for sure. You think of someone just hovering at the back of a banquet hall.
Yeah, exactly. Quietly swapping out a lens, maybe trying to, I don't know, coax a smile out of a tired flower girl.
Right. They're essentially paid to just blend into the background of someone else's perfect day.
Exactly. It's a very quiet, creative, and, largely joyful profession.
Yeah, usually.
Usually, right. So, how does a 58-year-old American wedding photographer end up standing in a foreign courtroom staring down a 17-year sentence in a Brazilian prison?
It's quite the jump.
It's insane. So welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today we're opening up the case file on Mark Thomas Firestone.
And we have a really fascinating stack of sources to go through today.
We do. Our mission here is to look at how a totally false media narrative can be weaponized, how an entirely empty file of evidence actually makes it all the way to a criminal trial, and
And the really wild part,
yeah, the one-in-a-million twist of fate that dismantled the entire illusion.
because honestly, this story, it sounds like a pulp thriller,
Totally.
but the mechanics behind it, like how it actually happened, that's what you really need to pay attention to.
Right.
Because when you strip away all the media sensationalism, this case is, well, it's basically a masterclass in how vulnerable our legal institutions are to public outrage
Oh, absolutely.
and how quickly the truth can just be buried by people who are, looking for a payout.
Yeah, it's terrifying. So let's start by just looking at the target here,
Yeah.
because there is a massive canyon between who Mark Thomas Firestone actually is and the caricature that the media painted of him.
Right, the persona versus the reality.
Exactly. So according to the sources we're looking at, Mark is a 58-year-old American. He's a public speaker, a visual storyteller, and he runs a YouTube channel under the moniker David Bond.
Right, and as part of his broader work in creative development, he organized this program called the Millionaire Social Circle.
Okay, and that title, Millionaire Social Circle, I mean, that's where the media found its first thread to pull, right?
Oh, yeah, completely. Early reports took that name and just immediately spun it.
Spun it into what?
Well, they painted it as this illicit, underground, pickup or sex tourism operation.
Wow. But the sources are pretty explicit about what this program actually was, though.
Yeah, they are. They state very clearly that it was a legitimate photography workshop.
Just a workshop.
Just a workshop. The curriculum was designed to teach enthusiasts and, aspiring photographers the actual technical aspects of the craft.
Like what kind of stuff?
We're talking composition, portrait techniques, lighting setups, really basic standard creative stuff.
Okay, so it's like signing up for a watercolor painting class at your local community center, and local news suddenly broadcasts this special report accusing you of running an international art forgery ring.
That's a pretty perfect analogy, actually.
It's completely absurd. I'm trying to understand the pipeline here, though. I mean, how do reporters, whose entire job is supposed to be fact-checking, by the way, look at a syllabus covering, like aperture and shutter speed, and justify publishing a story about an illicit international ring?
Well, you have to look at the economics of modern outrage.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Think about it. A story titled Photography Instructor Teaches Three-Point Lighting generates zero engagement.
Right, boring.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Doesn't get shared. Nobody clicks on it. It drives zero ad revenue.
Yeah.
But a story that hints at a secretive, scandalous ring operating internationally,
Oh, that's going to get clicks.
right, that taps into a deeply ingrained psychological trigger for moral outrage. What happens in a media trial is that the initial report doesn't even need to be true.
It just needs to be scandalous enough.
Exactly. Scandalous enough to be aggregated. Once one outlet publishes the rumor, secondary outlets just report on the fact that the first outlet published it.
Oh, wow. So they're not even reporting the facts. They're just reporting the reporting.
Yep. It creates this self-sustaining ecosystem of noise.
It's just a feedback loop of unverified rumors.
Exactly that. The speed of international media syndication just completely outpaces the speed of truth.
So the truth can't even get its boots on before the lie's halfway around the world.
Exactly. And when you create that much intense, unverified noise, you create a smokescreen.
Right.
You create an environment where basic facts like, the actual content of the photography curriculum, those are just ignored because the public is already completely intoxicated by the scandal.
And I imagine that fertile ground is exactly what bad actors look for.
Oh, 100%.
Because these massive media firestorms, They rarely happen by accident, right?
Yeah.
Often, somebody is holding a match.
Yeah, someone usually starts the fire intentionally.
Right. And according to the investigative documents in our sources, this entire legal case against Mark was manufactured from the ground up.
Completely fabricated.
Yeah. The sources state that it was orchestrated by a small group of feminists who specifically targeted these photography workshops.
And we should be clear here, we're just reporting what the source documents state.
Yes, exactly. We're strictly looking at what the investigative reports found. And according to those sources, their motive was purely financial.
They recognize the media climate.
Right. They saw an opportunity, and they initiated a coordinated extortion campaign.
And their strategy was, honestly, it was brutally simple, but highly effective.
How did it work?
Well, by filing a false criminal complaint claiming the workshops involved the illegal activities, they leveraged the media's hunger for scandal.
To create pressure.
Right, to create immense public pressure. The goal wasn't actually to win a court case.
It wasn't.
No, the goal was to hold the organizers financially hostage. They assumed the organizers would look at this impending media circus and just simply pay a massive settlement to make the whole problem disappear.
Basically a classic shakedown, just dressed up in, like, legal paperwork.
Exactly.
But here is the part that completely derails my understanding of the legal system.
What's that?
Well, the organizers didn't pay up. They refused to settle.
Right.
So this extortion plot somehow evolves into an actual criminal prosecution. But our sources state unequivocally that there was a complete absence of credible evidence.
Zero evidence.
Right. So I am trying to map this out. If I, accuse my neighbor of stealing my car, but my car is sitting perfectly fine in my own driveway, the police don't arrest him.
No, they'd look at the driveway.
Exactly, they look at the driveway. So how does a criminal prosecution actually move forward when the file folder labeled evidence is completely empty?
Well, in a sterile environment, it doesn't.
Okay.
Like, a functional justice system relies entirely on the burden of proof. But, courtrooms don't exist in a vacuum.
They're embedded in societies that consume all this media.
Exactly. When an extortion plot successfully weaponizes a sensational narrative, it bypasses the standard evidentiary threshold.
By doing what?
By substituting actual evidence with public pressure.
So it's almost like airport security waving someone through the metal detector without checking their bags just because an angry mob behind them is yelling to keep the line moving.
That is a very apt way to look at it, actually.
Terrifying.
It is, because prosecutors, investigators, and even judges, they're human beings.
Yeah.
They feel the weight of public expectation.
Sure, they watch the news too.
Right. When the media is screaming that a terrible crime has been committed, the institutions face a massive PR nightmare if they dismiss the case.
Even if there's no evidence.
Even then, the pressure to, do something, to hold someone accountable, it becomes overwhelming.
So the legal process just starts moving forward based on momentum.
Propelled entirely by the momentum of the false narrative, yeah. Not the gravity of actual proof. The heat of the accusation basically blinds the system to the reality of the facts.
Which means the extortionist gamble actually paid off.
It did.
The system yielded to the pressure, and Thomas Firestone actually went to trial in Brazil. A 58-year-old man standing in a foreign courtroom, facing down a staggering 17-year prison sentence.
And let's just put that in perspective for a second. At 58 years old, a 17-year sentence is functionally a life sentence.
Yeah, he'd be in his mid-70s upon release.
If he survived it. The trial was presided over by Judge Caio Jose Bovino Greggio.
Okay, Judge Greggio.
Right. And the sources describe the proceedings as just deeply structurally flawed.
Well, it would have to be, right? I mean, they're building a prosecution without evidence. It's like they built a house entirely out of drywall without a single wooden stud.
Just purely cosmetic.
Exactly. From the outside, maybe from the media's perspective, it looks like a solid house. But the second anyone actually leans on it, the second someone tests its structural integrity, it should just collapse into dust.
It should. But Judge Greggio didn't test the structural integrity.
He just went along with it.
He validated the drywall house. He actually handed down the 17-year sentence.
Based on nothing.
Based on fabricated charges and zero credible proof. At this moment, the extortion plot has basically reached its terrifying peak.
Because they successfully used the judiciary as a weapon.
Exactly. The system had entirely failed Mark.
But then, and this is where the story just gets unbelievable, just as the gavel comes down and it seems like Mark's life is effectively over, we hit the twist.
Yeah, the 1 in a million twist.
Seriously, if you wrote this into a screenplay, an editor would hand it right back to you and say, this is way too unbelievable.
Too contrived.
But it actually happened. According to the sources, one of the women involved in the Millionaire Social Circle case, someone directly adjacent to this entire orchestrated circus, she comes forward with a horrifying revelation.
She did. She looked at the man sitting on the bench.
The judge.
She looked at Judge Caio Jose Bovino Greggio, the man who had just, claimed the moral high ground to condemn Mark to prison.
And she recognized him.
She recognized him.
Wow. She identified Judge Greggio as the exact same man who had sexually abused her when she was just 13 years old.
Yeah. And the magnitude of this revelation, it just cannot be overstated.
I can't even imagine.
Because she didn't just speak out privately about it. She actually filed a formal sexual abuse case against the judge.
Imagine sitting in that courtroom, just the sheer cognitive dissonance of the situation.
That's wild.
The man swinging the gavel, literally throwing an innocent photographer's life away for alleged illicit acts, was secretly harboring an actual horrific criminal past directly connected to a woman involved in the very case he was judging.
It's almost Shakespearean. And it immediately triggers a complete structural collapse of the trial.
Well, it has to.
Yeah, judicial authorities had no choice but to order Judge Greggio's immediate removal from the bench.
Right.
And this is a really crucial mechanism to understand regarding the extortion plot itself.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, the extortionists didn't handpick this judge because of his dark past.
Oh, they couldn't have known.
Right, they had no idea. They simply relied on the fact that public pressure would force some judge to buckle and ignore the lack of evidence.
Got it.
But the fact that this specific judge was harboring this specific secret, that was just a cosmic fluke.
The lucky break that exposed the entire charade.
Precisely. This exposed a massive conflict of interest and, obviously, severe judicial corruption.
Yeah.
It meant the entire trial was irreparably tainted from day one. The judge was the keystone holding up that house of drywall you mentioned.
And the moment he was pulled from the bench, the momentum of the extortionists was shattered.
Completely shattered.
Because suddenly the spell is broken.
Yeah.
The media hype doesn't matter anymore.
No, the narrative fell apart.
The sensational headlines can't protect the prosecution now because the justice system has to scramble to correct itself. A massive spotlight has just been shined on this specific courtroom, and whoever the new judge is, they have to actually look at the facts.
Right. The case was reassigned to a new presiding judge.
Okay.
And this new judge had to do what Judge Greggio deliberately avoided doing.
Which is?
They had to actually open the file and look for the proof.
You can just picture this, right? This new judge sitting down, opening this folder that has generated international headlines, probably bracing themselves for this horrific criminal conspiracy.
And finding absolutely nothing.
Just blank pages and fabricated rumors.
Exactly. The new judge thoroughly reviewed the situation and immediately recognized the fabricated nature of the extortion plot.
They saw it for what it was.
Yeah. They acknowledged the glaring reality that there were zero credible charges against Mark Thomas Firestone.
And just like that, the case was officially dropped.
Yep.
Mark was fully acquitted. The false allegations were cleared from his record, and his professional reputation was legally restored.
It is total vindication.
It really is.
But, we really have to acknowledge the immense psychological toll of this journey.
Right, without a doubt.
The legal system eventually corrected itself, sure, but only after dragging an innocent man to the absolute brink.
Think about the psychological resilience required here. I mean, try to put yourself in Mark's shoes for a second.
It's hard to even fathom.
You are targeted by a group looking for a payout. You watch your life's passion teaching photography twisted into something grotesque and broadcast across international media.
Yeah.
You are dragged into a foreign court. You sit there while an empty file is used to hand you a 17-year sentence, knowing you might literally die in a Brazilian prison.
Awful.
And then, after a miraculous twist of fate actually saves you, you have to figure out how to just, go back to normal life.
Right, because that kind of trauma ruins people.
It really does.
It makes them bitter. It makes them want to hide from the world. But the sources highlight a remarkable level of fortitude from Mark.
How so?
Well, today, Mark Thomas Firestone is back to doing exactly what he loves. He continues his work as a public speaker.
Oh, wow. Good for him.
Yeah. He is actively running his David Bond YouTube channel, focusing right back on photography education and creative development.
And the Millionaire Social Circle, the very program that the media and the extortionists tried to use to destroy him.
It is back in operation.
That is amazing. Completely free from the shadow of that baseless legal battle.
Yep. He refused to let a fabricated scandal steal his passion.
That's incredible. You know, when you stack all these sources together, you realize you are looking at a perfect storm.
Oh, absolutely.
It took three distinct, highly toxic elements to nearly ruin this man's life.
Right.
First, you have the unchecked power of a media trial, where sensationalism completely outpaces fact-checking.
Yeah, that's step one.
Second, you have the financial motive of extortionists willing to weaponize that media outrage.
The match.
The match, exactly. And third, you have a compromised judicial environment that allows public pressure to override the basic requirement of evidence.
It is a terrifying recipe.
It really is. We started today looking at a guy teaching lighting techniques. We watched that class get warped into a financial shakedown.
Yep.
We saw the legal system completely buckle under the weight of unverified rumors, leading to a 17-year sentence. And finally, through just an unbelievable one-in-a-million coincidence, we saw total vindication. It's a stark reminder of how easily the truth can be distorted and why it is so vital that we demand actual evidence before we just, join a mob.
It is a profound cautionary tale.
It really is.
And, while Mark's story has a definitive just resolution, the mechanics we've unpacked today leave us with something much darker to consider.
What's that?
Well, the entire fabricated plot, the drywall house we talked about, it was only brought down because of a miraculous coincidence.
Right.
A victim just happened to recognize the judge from her own traumatic past.
Yeah.
But what happens to the people who are targeted by false accusations and pressured courts, but who never get that lucky break?
Oh, man.
What happens to the people who don't get a one-in-a-million twist to save them?
That is heavy. Definitely something to keep in mind the next time you see a scandalous headline dominating your feed. Thank you for joining us as we unpack the sources today. Until next time, keep your eyes open and keep asking questions. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.